Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We are back in the world of Tomarang building a 4-unit rental complex. It's been a while since I've exclusively used the for rent expansion pack, and for today's build I don't just want to use the pack. However, the majority of the items are used from the pack, but I do add in some other objects that are from other packs just because this doesn't really need to be a pack restricted build. But I did want to build in Tomarang, and this is the Tamnang lot. I'm probably saying that wrong. But I wanted to build here because I'd not built on this lot before. And the inspiration for this build was taken from the neighbouring lots in the world, where you see a lot of stacked townhouses. And this particular build is basically 3 townhouses bundled together. Internally, each unit is decorated with its own color scheme, and throughout the speed build you'll only see me furnish 2 out of the 4 units, which are the far left side, the left units, the top floor and the bottom floor. However, all 4 units will be showcased in the final tour at the end of today's video. So if that sounds like something you'd like to see, please stick around. And if you enjoy today's content, please consider subscribing, liking, and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. All right, so I firstly started with the lower left unit, which is a 1x1 bedroom unit. It's the internal colors are like a red and orange color scheme. I was initially hoping to fit 2 bedrooms into this space because from the outside, the left-hand side of the build, or the complex, I guess, looked like it was way more spacious than it actually was. So the upstairs of the left side is a 2-bedroom unit, and then the downstairs is a 1-bedroom unit, and I believe the other 2 are, I think there's a 1-bedroom upstairs on the right side, and then the lower right side is a 2-bedroom unit. Designing the floor plan for each unit was relatively easy. I first worked out where the main bedroom of the unit would be, and then a smaller room for where the bathroom would be. And then from there, I could tell whether or not I had enough space for an additional bedroom, or whether the main living area and where the main living area would be, because essentially it's just an open living space. So each unit is really how it's configured is you'll have a kitchen, dining, and living room really closely configured so that it's not overly spacious. I wouldn't really say that these units are super family friendly, but they're nice enough. Now, the color scheme of this particular complex is just very basic. I do use some of that kind of wooden sliding, and you'll see that shortly where I put that on the lower floor of the complex, and then upstairs I use just like a beige concrete. It's very minimal and it's not really bright and colorful. I have done builds in this world where I've used a lot of the pastel exterior wallpapers, and I've done a really colorful build, but this is a very, I guess, more traditional building, and I really enjoyed today's build. I really like it. So what we are up to now is we're essentially finalizing the exterior of the build, and I wanted to work out where are the entry points for each apartment, or unit I should say. So the top floor units obviously have an external large staircase that you walk up, and that leads you to a front porch where you would go into the unit. On the left side, the upper porch is quite large, and I do put some furniture out there so you can utilize the space. And then downstairs, they have a proper backyard. So the upstairs don't have a backyard, but they do have a balcony and obviously, like, I guess, a porch area. So at this point, we are just doing the floor plans. As you can see, the color schemes. So we have the orange and the red downstairs on the left side. The upstairs has a green coloring. And then on the right side, you have the upstairs has a pink coloring. I think in the end, I do change that. And then the lower floor is a blue. We will be starting with the left-hand side, which is we're doing a 1-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit that we'll be furnishing in the speed build. So I really, as I said before, I wanted this to be a 2-bedroom unit because I felt like there'd be more room. In the end, that didn't work out. So I literally had just the two bump outs. I had a large section where you had a really long master bedroom, and then behind that wall where you've got the front door, not the front door, sorry, the bedroom door, that's actually the kitchen, which is what I'm doing here. I'm actually putting out the cabinetry. This set comes from For Rent, and I use I think it's a tiling that comes from, is it Realm of Magic? Yeah, Realm of Magic. And it is the perfect swatch. And I tried to use that Realm of Magic swatch in each of the units in different colors and combined it with the wallpaper that came with For Rent to make a very complementary color palette for the space. So the layout of each unit is quite similar. I tried to include obviously a small-ish sitting area, living area, a desk where I could, obviously a dining table of some sort. The majority of the dining tables used are very small, and then you've obviously got a kitchen, and I tried to either put a rice cooker or a kettle in each of the units, and then obviously just the bedrooms, and then every unit has a formal entryway. As I mentioned before, this wasn't a pack restricted build, but I really wanted to lean into the For Rent expansion pack and use a lot of the assets that come from those builds. I've also used, they're not called, I don't know what they're called, but they're the squatting toilets that are very thematic in this world and for this pack. So I've used that in each one of the units as well. As you can see, there's that tile that comes from Realm of Magic. It's beautiful. That it's kind of like a yellowish beige, and it just is so complementary to the orange kind of apricot wallpaper that's already present for the majority of the house. So I thought that was really good, and that sparked the idea, the inspiration, I guess, to use it for the other 4 units. I do like the kitchen set that came with For Rent. I just really struggled with a lot of these upper cabinetry pieces. I felt that they didn't really fit where I wanted to fit, like, this smaller piece that has the towels. I don't really want to put that above a fridge because realistically you wouldn't be able to like grab the towels and stuff. Like, there's little things like that where it's like sometimes I feel like it kind of plays with the realism factor of it. And I do think that when I build, I do factor that in. Like, I do factor that if this was an actual house in real life, how would it function? And I think that that's what helps me create floor plans. And, it helps with spacing. Like, can you actually logically live in a place like this? And then I remember that I'm playing The Sims and it really doesn't matter. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, do you actually consider these things when you play The Sims? Do you like to have a more spacious area, or do you really like to have a super cluttered and well lived in, well detailed space? All right, so something that we use in this particular unit is, I love these coach bags. So these came in a base game update a couple of months ago, and I've used it at the entryway, and I think it's so thematic where, by the entry you might have a place where you put your bags and stuff or your keys down, and that's what I like to use those new objects for. Obviously in bedrooms and things like that, you could use them. You could obviously size them up, raise them up, and use them like as a hanging piece, or you could put them in like the modular wardrobe systems that we have now in the game. So yeah, you could definitely get a lot more use out of them. I've just used it in an entryway. All right, so I put down these beds, and these I think come from City Living, and I just kind of put them down to kind of gauge the sizing of the space. I think I did it in all of the units. I decided to keep the bed in this particular unit because I loved the color. That red swatch was really it fit the theme of this particular unit really well. So I've gone with that bed. I've paired it with a rug from Laundry Day, actually. Again, had all the colors that I needed from it. And then I just kept the rooms very basic. Okay, moving into the final room of this unit, you have the bathroom. I've used the shower, I've used the toilet, and I've used the sink that comes from, sorry, not the sink that comes from For Rent. I think I use it in another unit, but this is just a base game sink with the counters that are from the kitchen. I've used the mirror that comes from For Rent and these wall lights. These wall lights were really quite nice. Paired it with the same kitchen tiled, and I used more of like a beige, not a terracotta tile, but it was more of a beige tile in the thing. So now that we've done that first unit, I will now jump out and do all of the landscaping. So at this point, privately off camera, I did build the other two units. Obviously the third one, yeah, will be shown in a minute. And at this point, I went outside to do all of the landscaping. So as you can see, we have fenced off a little front area for the right side, lower right side build unit. And they've got a little front courtyard, and then the back unit on the right does have its own backyard. As you can see, the both left and right have backyards. And they also have gates that lead you to the water. So just past here, there is kind of like, it's oceanfront. It's kind of like a beachy vibe. And a lot of these debug plants remind me so much of Sulani. And I love the debug menu in For Rent. So I used a lot of the debug items, and I just went to town and cluttered up this space. I used an old bike. I used these pots and these just, basic base game plants. All the trees were really beautiful. A lot of these like leafy branches and plants and things like that. We used a lot of that. And I just really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed this space. And I still incorporated color, like this beautiful red blossomed tree. We've used that in the lot that obviously had a lot of red and things like that. So I've found a way to incorporate that with the landscaping. In this particular unit, I put in the shrine. So that is also another object that came with the game. I also included hopscotch. Outside, I've used these kind of like plastic outdoor reusable chairs. I've said this before when the pack came out. So I live in Australia and we actually use these all the time. And they remind me of home so much. So I've used them in different colors throughout the build. Like these ones are red. I think I've used like a whitish color or blue. I've used yellow ones. I've made sure to incorporate them because I love them so much. All right, so that is the majority of the landscaping. So it's got everything that you need for it to be functional. Obviously, this would be a rental property. You could have a landlord in here and they could own the other three, or you could have a landlord own all four and just rent them out. When I play tested this, the rent was actually fairly affordable for especially like the 1-bedroom unit. So it's quite good. All right, we are now up to the second unit that we are furnishing. I did use a lot of the teardrop tool, which is essentially like a copy paste. It's like a duplicating tool. And I basically rent around the 4 units, the 3 units at this point, and just duplicated a whole bunch of stuff. So you will potentially see sneak peeks into the other 3 units as I do this, because I will be copying and pasting. So initially I wanted this apartment or unit to be greenish. I think I do change it in the end to be more of a beige tone. I think we do change the wallpaper. So you walk in and you have right in front of you, you have your kitchen, dining and living, and then through that big door there you have the master bedroom, and then on the opposite end of the hall you have a child's room and a bathroom. I think it's a child's room. We'll have to see. I really struggled with the colouring in this particular lot. I wanted to use the green. So in the end, the backsplash, I didn't use the one that came from Realm of Magic. I used the one that came from Home Chef Hustle. I just felt it fit better. I've used the same curtains in each of the units in different swatches. This is just the base swatch, first swatch in this particular unit. Again, pairing in the greens. I then wanted to incorporate pink because it was in the curtains, and I thought that that would be a good way to utilize that. So we do incorporate a bit of pink as well. And this is a very small apartment. I keep saying apartment. It's a unit. And it's interesting because this is 2 bedrooms. So I feel like this would be better suited for potentially like if you had a child or even a teen sim maybe. I don't think these units would be suitable for families because there's minimal living space. However, I do think you could have a child sim, maybe 2 adults, just not a lot of space for an infant and a toddler because they need more space to play and learn skills. I don't remember the exact rent amount for each unit. However, I do remember it being fairly affordable. So you could have a student or a couple of units option to play. The inclusion of the rental lots in Sims 4 has added so much realism to the game, and the world of Tomarang shows great diversity within the game. I think it was something that, we hadn't had that type of representation in the game when this pack came out, so it's really nice to see. All right, at this point, I am finalizing the living areas. So this was one of the units where I put in a rice cooker. I like to add that in because when we got kettles formally in The Sims, it was so exciting. Again, there are a lot of like Asian culture that, is also shown in Australia as well. So like having those type of things is very reminiscent of home. I made sure each unit has a burglar alarm and temperature controls and things like that. Yes, obviously they're from different packs, but I thought that was okay. Yeah, it looks like it's a child's room in just a pink coloring, which is very basic, and I don't even know if I changed the wallpaper in here because it matches perfectly anyway. I downsized a dollhouse because I think they're way too massive. And I've put in a dresser, I've put in a stuffed animal, and I've just kept it really simple in here. There is a desk in this particular unit, and we are moving into the bathroom, which is an interesting size. It's fairly big, and in here I've put in a few counters. I've raised up this beautiful birds of paradise type plant. I've obviously put in the toilet that I've been putting in all of the units, and I think we do a bathtub. Yep, on an angle, just because it was a very awkward place. You could have put, I think with the curtain there, I didn't want to put a shower, but you could definitely, fit a tub on an angle, and it just looks pretty. All right, we are into the final bedroom, and I've used the bed that comes with For Rent, this beautiful canopy bed, and I loved that blue swatch. And initially I had that blue swatch on the couch. I think I did change it to a beige in the end, but that's a really beautiful blue swatch. And yeah, I just really liked it. So I've gone in with the lighter wood tones in here, copied the plant, and yeah, I use these chairs from For Rent all the time. I just really like them. They're a little bit on the modern side, but I like the material kind of hessian back to them. So that was quite good. And I think I changed the wallpaper in here. I also use the lamps in this pack a lot. I used another one of those bags, this time in a bedroom, and my favorite brush and claw clip. It is like my favorite decor piece that of course comes from the sleek bathroom kit, and I'm just putting extra wall hangings around the house. All right, so this is that top porch where it had a little bit more space, which is good because this unit really is not spacious at all. So this kind of additional area allows you to get a little bit more space. All right, we are in the final tour. So we are live in game, and we're just going to go through each unit. So we'll start with the first one that we furnished, which is this orange and red colored 1x1 bedroom unit. You walk in, you have an entryway, you wrap around, and you have your bathroom, your kitchen, living and dining. And then through that door, you have your master bedroom, which is the main bedroom of the house. It's the only bedroom in the house. As I said, each bathroom has that kind of squatting toilet, and they either have a shower or a bath. You head outside into a little courtyard. You've got some skill building, and you have the shrine in this particular unit, which is quite nice. We're then going to head over to unit number 2, which is the bottom right side. You walk in, you have a very skinny hallway, and you have a bathroom. So I've used the sink that comes with for rent in this particular bathroom. You head further down the hall, you have the master bedroom, which is quite lovely in there. You then have your kitchen, which I also put in a laptop at the counter space and the island, just because I couldn't fit a desk. It was very, very tight fitting in this space. And you have a very small child's room in here as well. You walk outside and you have some gardening. They have a barbecue here. No other unit has a barbecue, so that's quite an interesting point. We head upstairs on the right side. You have the third apartment unit, which is more in a brown theme. I really love the floor plan of this one. So you walk in and that kitchen is in the center. And then you have a very small living room. You have a main bedroom, a master bedroom off from that living room. And then you wrap around to the other side and you have a infant's room, or a toddler's room, I should say, and quite a spacious bathroom. And then that leads you out and you have an easel and just a small little balcony space there. And then finally, you have the fourth unit, which is the one we just furnished, which is in that pinkish color. And you have that beautiful master bedroom. It's one of my favorites in the entire complex. On one side, and you go right down to the other side and you have your bathroom and your child's room. And that is the build today, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to download this build, it is available on the Sims 4 gallery. My gallery ID is Antoinette.44. It is in the description below. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.